everybody, welcome to Chris Anderson Comics. I'm Chris Anderson. I'm here today with my very special guest, Dave Gordon. Gordy, how you doing, man?
Good, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing really well. So we're going to take a look at one of two comic book gene pool issues that you chose to take a look at. And man, I am actually so excited to take a look at both of them because neither one of them were on my radar whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
I knew nothing about them. Actually, I kind of still don't. I wish I had dug a little deeper now that I'm thinking about it. But any like insight that either of us don't have, maybe somebody can chime in and let us know. But the first one that you chose, let me actually sidestep real quick and tell everybody that your book, Being Gordy, is out right now. Where can everybody get it?
Right now, you can get it directly from me if you message me on Facebook or just go to Venmo. I haven't set up my website yet. That will have the digital storefront. That's going to happen hopefully in January.
Okay, so make the connection and get the book directly right now, and then very soon you'll be able to order it from the website.
Yes.
Perfect. So Angel and the Ape, man, this is from 1968.
Yeah, good stuff.
Really good stuff. Look at that DC logo. I love the logo at this time.
Oh yeah.
I like it better than almost any DC logo. People love the one that they just brought back, and I'm just like, it's fine. The bullet or whatever, This one, I love this one. Take the Superman out, although or keep the Superman in. But
yeah, either one.
Either way, it's I like it. It's so simple.
Yeah.
So what's the story? Well, then we'll look at the actual story. But why did you choose this one?
It was drawn by one of my favorite Silver and early Bronze Age artists, Bob Oksner. I just love how this guy drew.
Yeah.
His line work is amazing. And he's from that period where, comic books, while they were out there, they weren't as mainstream as they were today, as they are today. It's the community back then was made up of so many guys and women who were really either advertising artists or magazine illustrators who then would cross over for a while into comics and whatnot. I don't know his background, but he just wasn't your everyday comic book artist. It wouldn't surprise me if he was delving heavily into magazine illustration. Now that we're talking about it, I'll have to research that, because the way he draws women, especially, just with a certain elegance to it. I mean, this guy, you just couldn't touch him.
Yeah, that's exactly what struck me right away, and his ability to sort of balance this like cartooniness with like a regular like a sort of standard comic realism to it. It's almost Toth-like in some ways, the way that he lays down a line.
Yes.
It's beautiful stuff. And I also just can't get enough of the time period this is from too, because this is 1968, Beatles are putting out like the White Album is coming out at this time.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff that comes out from this time that is in comics that I've seen are written by square, older, white guys who are watching the young kid generation on the news or whatever and not really understanding them whatsoever, and just like picking up on phrases that they got from like Monkeys episodes or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And this one actually kind of feels like, I don't know if Bob wrote it or not. There's really no credits in it.
No, there is. He didn't write it. Let's see, there was a writing credit in here. Hold on. Scarpelli.
Oh, Scarpelli, right.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who that is. See, I wasn't sure if that was the writer or if somebody else inked it, which probably wasn't at the time. It probably was the writer.
The other reason I liked this book so much, why it had such an impact on me, was, because I'm a little older. I'm in my 50s,
Hmm.
and I grew up watching TV, and I grew up watching situation comedy.
Sure.
And before they, when I was a kid, it was pre cable.
Hmm.
You had three networks. That was it.
Yep.
So, but besides that, there was no cable or streaming with this multitude of entertainment we have today.
Yep.
So aside from the regular broadcast television, you had stuff like this. That
Yeah.
was your thing to turn to. And Angel and the Ape, it felt like a sitcom,
Yes.
and it was just so wonderfully drawn, and the writing, just the look, it reeks of the 60s for all the right reasons.
Yep. Absolutely.
The style of it. Bob Oksner, if there was a comedy book that DC was doing, he was all over it.
Okay. Yeah. So what else did he do?
He did okay. So believe it or not, I don't know if you remember this or knew, Bob Hope, the comedian,
Hmm.
had a successful DC comic book title that
Hmm.
went over 100 issues.
Okay.
Bob drew on that title.
Oh, okay.
The Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, which then just morphed into the Jerry Lewis comic.
Right.
Again, Bob was all over that at certain points. There was a successful, very popular situation comedy in I want to say it was in the mid 50s, called The Adventures of Dobie Gillis.
Yeah.
And it co-starred Bob Denver
Hmm.
before he went to Gilligan's Island.
Right. Played a
They did
beatnik.
they did a comic book off of that.
Okay.
And again, these were all DC. Um, Bob Oksner was all over that title. He did several issues of that. The only superhero book I know per se that he drew on in the Bronze Age, in the early to mid 70s, DC did a new Supergirl title
Okay.
that Paul Kupperberg, who's still around, wrote. Beautiful title, and Bob drew that. It was just that is available reprinted as graphic novels in trade paperback form.
Okay. That particular Supergirl run.
Yeah,
Okay.
beautiful stuff. There are at least two trade paperback volumes.
Does it look like this, the work that he does in here, or is this more cartoony because of the subject matter?
And all his stuff looks pretty much the same.
Oh my God, then I need to find it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dig in. Let's look at this.
Mm-hmm.
His storytelling is also, and his compositions are also second to none.
Oh, his ability to break down a page is just stunning. Yeah.
So this is the first issue. Angel and the Ape. What are they? So they talk about how they're this. They set the scene with outside this building, this mutual trust building, and they really sink you into the world, talking about the sound of police sirens and the clanging of ash cans and all this stuff on the outside world, and then you start to push in, and they're like, it's a business office tenanted by lovable young folk dedicated to law and order, and you start pushing in, and you see this woman holding a knife, and it's great. It's a juxtaposition from the text of what you're seeing, because it looks like she's about to stab somebody, right?
Yeah.
And all the dedication brought up is mutual trust and understanding. And then she's like got the knife on him. And then as you're pushing in, even further, he keeps it all in silhouette or shadow, shadow that's reflected on the wall. And you get this foreground image of, like a lady's slipper, and, you know, makeup and stuff, and then bullets and pearls and a gun and like, I don't know if this is like a old style grenade or if it's like a billy club or what it is, but anyway, it's like some sort of device used to harm people. Handcuffs, perfume, you know, lipstick maybe it's lipstick right next to the bullets. You can't really tell. I love it.
Yeah.
So they're really right away, they're setting the tone for this thing.
Yeah.
And the imagery is in juxtaposition of kind of what it's saying, and you're like, what the heck? And then boom, we open up and just look at this great first page. Holy crap. You know, the line work, like you were talking about, look at as he goes around the curve, like the apex of the curve is like so thick. You know, that brushwork is just phenomenal. And he's laying these faces down like, you know, if I was about to say something that would probably set some people off regarding Archie comics, but it's like really good. It's like really good cartooning here.
Yeah. His line work is just nuts.
Yeah. And the design of this ape is pretty great too. I'm working on an ape book as we speak. We're wrapping it up. So this really spoke to me in many ways.
Oh,
and look at this lettering too.
Yeah. This is all pre-computers.
It's just so fun.
Yeah.
And the ape, they even made it kind of shaggy on the inside of it there.
It's just stunning.
So we established the characters here, that Angel and the ape, and he can't really, when he talks, he sort of makes these like grunting sounds, but she can understand him.
Yeah.
We don't know why exactly she can understand him, but he's also an artist. He's a cartoonist.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they run a detective agency out of here, and the rent is due. And so that's their big dilemma here. And as the story kind of goes along, you get this like almost like Laurel and Hardy analogs, right?
Yep.
That come in, and they're taking everything because the rent is due, you know, now or whatever. Immediately they come in and just start taking their crap, including like the drawing board. But the ape is so oblivious. And the reason that the reason she's standing and holding the knife is that she's like modeling for him.
Yeah.
So that was the whole gag there.
How nobody ever tried to adapt this for television is beyond me.
Yeah. That made me wonder too, because it really does read like a sitcom, you know. And I do wonder if like, because her name is they say it here somewhere.
It's Angel O'Day, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Angel O'Day, and his name is Simeon, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, which means ape, right? So, Monkey Man and O'Brien made. I immediately thought of the Art Adams Monkey Man and O'Brien book that he did at Dark Horse Legend when like Hellboy was coming out and Sin City was coming out, and they had that imprint over at Dark Horse. Art Adams' book was called Monkey Man and O'Brien.
Huh.
About a gorilla and a girl who are like, you know, like they fight monsters and things, but still it's very similar.
Interesting.
So
that's actually really interesting, because I think it was in the 90s when Vertigo was still around. They did like a 4-issue miniseries of Angel and the Ape.
Yes.
And Art Adams did the covers for those.
That makes total sense. So yeah, he's definitely read this. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they you know, they're taking the stuff out, and she's kind of saying you know, he doesn't like it when I move when I'm modeling for him. So she just stands there as they're hauling her out, you know. And look at this great open panel too.
Yeah. His ability to lay out a page was just beautiful. It just worked so well.
Yep.
It just looked and felt like a TV show, like a TV sitcom.
Yeah, it really does. So they go and they, you know, they're loading the truck up. He finally notices it, and he's like, "Hey, hey, 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 you know, that's not cool," or whatever he's saying. Gleep glop. She knows. She interprets. So he's the art. He's like an R2D2 kind of character, right? You know, the people around him let you know what he's saying.
Let me interject for a second.
Sure.
I just thought of another book that Oksner worked on.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you know, sitcoms are my whole jam. In the 70s, there was a Welcome Back, Kotter comic book.
Oh, okay.
Again, DC Comics. They were great with doing these comedy books, and he worked on that one too, I believe.
That's really interesting that he had a foot in sort of this television world too.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, now I want to know more about him.
Same here. You know, I always just thought about his comic work, but after this conversation, I really want to research and see what his whole background was.
Yeah, because they had him doing likeness, it sounds like a lot too, which is, you know,
Yeah.
not an easy feat. Um so yeah, as it goes along, this girl kind of comes up and is like just kind of says gaze into my eyes to the ape, and she's like, give me your money, and he's like, oh, I had the rent money in my pocket the whole time. I just didn't want to bother these guys, even though he's like stepping on them. You know. And she like puts him in a trance basically, and is able to take his money. And so, you know, she's like, what the heck, what was that all about? I'm gonna have to go out and get myself a job. These faces that he does on these women, it's so simple.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who this like face reminds me of. Like it feels real familiar, and I'm not sure if it's like, I feel like it's a comic strip. It's not like Family Circle or something, but something like that. But so he's like, he's got this like two foot in two different worlds
Hmm.
of being able to do a straight book and this cartoony thing.
Yeah.
But these are just kind of like, you know, these older guys kind of oogling at her and you know, talking about the young kids. And she goes in, she's going to get a job as a go-go dancer, you know, and she, you know, and she's like, you know, I'm quite agile, and I have good wind, and I took dancing lessons when I was young. And he's like, all right, wait till this girl disappears. Look at that face.
It's beautiful.
Isn't that amazing?
What I
Gosh.
loved about this book was it was just so wonderfully silly. And it just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just felt like they threw a lot of rules out the window back then. I don't think they could do a book like this today if they tried.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think you might be right about that. And they're both kind of like, they just kind of bumble into things too, you know, like they're not
Yeah.
the brightest of people, you know,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
great. Um, and so he's like, you know, wait until this girl disappears and you can audition, and he's, you know, smitten with her
Mm.
because, you know, I think everywhere she goes, like people just turn at her because she's like this beautiful woman. And she's like, you know what? If you're gonna be a smart aleck, I don't even want this job. And he's like, no, 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 no. I didn't mean like. She really is gonna disappear. Look, and she's gone. And she's like, okay. And then she gets up and starts dancing. And then you got this like, you know, great, like, this is 1968, and the 60s. I feel like styles and things moved really quickly through the 60s. This feels more like 1966 than like 1968, for example.
Yeah.
You know, just even like following like the Beatles style or whatever, you know.
It totally has that feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so yeah, she starts dancing here. This is a great ad. So I want to point out some of the ads and stuff in here too to give us some context. This feels like Will Eisner drew this, and it's very
Yes.
possible.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you know what? No, I'm sorry. This is the ad. I thought I actually skipped over this thinking it was the ad because I didn't connect these guys. But that does feel like a Will Eisner
It does.
drawings, doesn't it?
Once you said it, I could see it.
Wow, that's a trip because he doesn't really do that anywhere else. And I was like, okay, maybe this was like Will Eisner's company doing ads for things. Nope. And check out the color choices too, like the the magenta for the foreground stuff, and
I loved how everything was just a flat color.
yeah,
Back then, I personally love that choice. I wish there was more of that today. I think today's comics, there's too much that's like over modeled.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes when people do flat color now, the problem is it doesn't end up looking as good because of the paper stock.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
It
doesn't soak it up the way that it should.
Yeah.
And it ends up kind of looking like slapdash for some reason.
Yeah.
Whereas this doesn't.
I can see that. Yeah.
And these great Action Highway 68. There was something else too. Oh yeah, let's go all the way back to the beginning. This was kind of interesting. There's this ad in here for Ford dealerships having like football leagues for kids. So you would go to your local Ford dealership and sign your kid up to be in a football league to win prizes. That could never happen now.
Yeah, seriously, huh?
way too much liability. I thought that was a trip. And then there's this this sort of letters page talking about explaining to people what fanzines are. So I didn't get a chance to really dig too far into it, but it talks about the Comic Crusader, which I know was like a big fanzine around the time.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. And we see that Creeper is in issue 4 at this point in 68.
I love that title.
It's so good.
Classic Steve Ditko.
Yep.
I actually I don't have to tell it now if you're not interested, but I met Steve Ditko once.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell it.
Okay. It's a pretty quick story. Our mutual friend Matt, he heard this like on the day. It was a lot of fun. So one day I was sitting here and I was surfing on YouTube, and I came across this web show, comics oriented, and these guys somehow heard or tracked down Ditko. He was in his 80s, but he had a Midtown Manhattan office space.
Yep.
And they were going to get brave and go in and talk to him. They started by talking outside of the building. They didn't show any actual interview because I guess Ditko wasn't into that. So all you saw was them, talking in front of the building, then going into it. And then when they came out, they were talking some more. Wow, he was great. He autographed some comics for us.
Wow.
We just met a legend, this and that.
They got in.
Now, they didn't announce where this office building was.
Right.
But during their filming, you could see the street sign. It was like 43rd Street, and you could see the number of the building.
Yeah.
So I just wrote it down, and this is about 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I went in for one of the early New York Comic Cons. It was like the second or third one. It was some summertime. I got brave. I went over there, and I go in the building, and there is this huge security guard at a desk. And I got brave, and I just said, Steve Ditko's office. And he looked at me, he smiled, and he said, "Comic fan?" I'm like, "Yup."
Yeah.
There's no point, hiding it.
Yeah.
He's like, "Okay, third, fourth floor, whatever." He pointed out the floor, and he said, "I got to warn you, some days he's more receptive than others." I'm like, "Okay, thanks." Go over to the elevator, go up, and I'm in this dark corridor, and about 4 doors down, all it says is S. Ditko. I knock on the door. I hear some shuffling. Comes over. The door opens like a crack, like 4 inches.
Yep.
And it never opened anymore. I didn't catch him on a great day.
Yeah.
He was accommodated. Well, he was friendly, but he clearly didn't want to be bothered. We talked for a little bit. I gave him a copy of one of my things. I got brave and asked him if he would sign some stuff. He wasn't into it, unfortunately, because I had in my bag, like, Creeper #1.
Yeah.
Hawk and Dove #1. But it was really interesting meeting him. Unfortunately, the impression he left, he was very bitter and jaded of the industry. He just wore that on his sleeve. But look, I did, have an encounter with him. I met him. I'm happy I did that. I do consider him a, early hero. And then as soon as I walked out of the building, I called our mutual friend Matt, and you start giving him all the details about this, and we're both just kind of cracking up about it.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I think that was a pilgrimage for quite a few people that I know.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure how they found out about it, but apparently he also would go down and have dinner at McDonald's that was at the bottom of the building somewhere, like next to the building, every night. So people would
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
They'd get him there. And a lot of people would send him letters that I know too, and get back, send him their book, send him a letter. And then he would write something back like, don't ever send me anything again. And your stuff is crap, and like, this is, and then they would write back to him, and then he would write back again. So they would have this correspondence, like stacks of letters of correspondence that sometimes he would give a little bit of nugget of something, but mostly it was like berating the person for sending them the letter. And I was like, why would he send a letter back?
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Don't send a letter back.
Yeah, if you don't want to be bothered, just throw it out.
Yeah, it's another day of time, I guess. You get a letter, you send one back. That's what you do.
He was totally the J.D. Salinger of the comic book industry.
Absolutely, yeah,
100%. 100%.
That's great. I love it. Yeah. Creeper was such a bizarre character too. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
So we're getting dropped back into this story, and check him out. He's got a sitar, and I actually have one in the in the closet. Yeah. And he's like talking about the Maharishi here. Doesn't necessarily mention him by name, but 1968. This is when the Beatles made their pilgrimage to Maharishi, and the White Album was out. At this point, I think that Harrison had released a couple of tracks with the playing sitar on it, so it was, in the zeitgeist.
And again, on that left-hand page, that ad page, look at the typography.
Yeah,
that was all done by hand.
I know. I love it so much. Yeah, I study this stuff so much and try to bring it into everything that I do these days. It just looks so much better than digital typography.
Yeah,
it stands out now too because it's different.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's old is new. And then you've got this neighbor that's coming in. Who is like, he's a crank, and he's he's there to water his banana plant, and so now all of a sudden he can talk, but it's in this square dialogue box. So what I gather is that people that are close to him, like his neighbor and other people who know him, can decipher his grunts, and really what's happening is grunts out loud, but in order to indicate that it's being shown in a box.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a cool way to show it too.
I loved how this book just didn't take itself seriously.
Not at all.
Some people could understand them, others couldn't, and they don't bother really explaining it. It just is. Doesn't
matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
It creates its language in the beginning, and then you just follow it from there.
Yeah.
You figure it out. So he gets this letter from his editor, his comics editor, because he's a comic book artist, this ape, and detective. you know, like most of us comic book artists, right?
Of course.
And then meanwhile on the streets, I love these panel layouts too, how they're off kilter and they're bending a little bit there, you know.
There's no logic to it, but it's beautiful.
It's meant to be disorienting because these go-go girls, they have these numbers on them too, are hypnotizing these men into just giving them their money, cash registers, you know, money from the bank. Like, young lady, you overlooked these customer premiums, an electric blanket, and oops, you forgot some $100 bills. Back in the day when you would get gifts for opening up a checking account at a bank, and those days are long gone.
Yeah.
People would get their like Corningware and stuff, right, from like opening.
Different times, huh?
Yeah, it's a trip. And so yeah, like it's all the way up to the, you know, to the president, that these girls are just kind of walking in and taking stuff and by mesmerizing them, and they've got this great like it almost looks like Red Sonja, you know, like chainmail skirts. It's just like the go-go metallic looking material. And then we're introduced to Professor Klutz here, and he's the guy who's running it all, and he's got this like dope of a sidekick here. Look at the intro to him. Isn't this great? Where this like above shot, this, you know, all this stuff sort of framing him here, and then you look at his face, and he's very much looks like was it like Goldfinger, right?
Like a Bond villain. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's also got all these the ends of his fingers. It's got like a can opener and a corkscrew and a screwdriver and a nail. And this is his thing that allows him to control this machine that, well, here's a new victim. So they found this beautiful young girl and dropped her in here, and they put her on this thing, and then they can pick 3 qualities: cleanliness, keeps her mouth shut, polite, never watches TV, rational, stupidity, and I don't know what that says. OBED. Oh, obedient. Okay. Obedient. So, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know how I said, I don't think we could, earlier I said they couldn't do a comic book like this today if they wanted to.
Yeah.
There's a classic example of that, but for not the original reason I intended.
Right. Exactly.
So unpolitically correct.
Yeah. It's pretty misogynistic right there.
Yeah. It's sexist. It's insulting. But you know, at the time, it's damn funny too.
Right. It's, you know, in context of 1968.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they put her on this table and they zap her, and she's like, where am I? And now she's, you know, one of them. So she's going to get her number. Number 13's handing it to her. You get your skirt and your blouses here. Handbags on the main floor. So, you know, he's got an army of these go-go girls. Meanwhile, the ape is trying to drop off his new pages at the editor, and the editor is like, so here we go. It's DC about to make fun of Marvel big time here.
Yeah.
Stan Bragg strikes again. Boom, not again. Oh. Let's hear it. Who's the greatest comic editor in the world? And he's like, you know, these are he's talking about how like the credits are like not going to suffice. You know, it says by Sam Simeon. He crosses it off and writes Stan Bragg, and then writes, you know, stunning story by the stupendous Stan Bragg, special drawing by Snappy Stan Bragg, straight borders by shaky Stan Bragg, sensational coloring by a colorful Stan Bragg. You know, it's a total Stan Lee burn.
Oh, total.
Love it.
Yeah, it couldn't be any more direct.
Love the DC Marvel wars of this era.
It was fun.
So 68, Kirby is still, I think, doing Fantastic Four over at Marvel. So he hasn't made the jump yet. It'll be 2 or 3 years, I think, before he's fed up. And then does his own sick burn in New Gods against Stan.
That's right. What was the name of that character?
Oh God, what was it?
Oh, was it Glorious Godfrey?
No.
No.
Crap, I can't remember the name of him. Flashy.
Flashman, something.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Ah, man, I my comic book cred is totally gone now. So anyway, the secretary here is, they're talking about all this stuff. He breaks out of the net that the editor, put him in to hold him down for a second. And the secretary is like, hey, you have a letter here. And he's like, oh, I bet it's from Angel. And she's apologized for walking away from me without saying goodbye. And the secretary is like, oh, Sammy, baby, you have another girl? Sob. So, this ape is like a smooth guy. He's got all the ladies.
He's a player.
Yeah, he is. And so he goes down. She's like, I'm strapped in a cage at a go-go show. And he sees like this crowd, and he has to fight with this doorman to get in, and even the coat check lady, or they make him put on a tie because it's a class joint at this go-go place. And even the coat check girl is like, oh, I have to tell my mother about the classy clientele that just came in. So she's dancing in here, and he's like, wow, I didn't know that she was doing that. And the waiter's like, a banana daiquiri, sir? And he's like, how did you know that was my favorite drink? Ha ha ha. But then the evil doctor comes in and sees her, and he's like, would you be so kind, young lady, as to try this on for size, and puts her in a bag. Now she thinks that it's ape throwing his voice, ventriloquism. Great foreground image here of the professor looking, and another great open silhouette panel. Like somebody's following Wally Wood's panels that work, right?
It's interesting you should say that, because this title it didn't go long. It went about like 10 issues or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Wally Wood did a few of the later issues.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. They're
I'll
really
have to track those ones down.
They're beautiful. Every issue of the series was just stunning to look at.
Wally, talk about a cartoonist who could walk between cartooning and traditional drawing, Yeah,
you couldn't touch him.
So that makes sense that he would do this thing.
Yeah.
So they take off. The ape is chasing after him, and luckily the professor has a dart gun to dart him, and so they're able to take him off, and they drop him off at the zoo, and the zookeepers put him in a cage with gorillas, and they're like, well, if he's actually a guy, if he's actually a person, then he'll scream, and we'll say, why the hell are you in a gorilla cage? And if he's a gorilla, then we did our job, So like, that's how we'll get away with it. But the lady apes are going crazy for him, and the big male ape is like pissed, and he's like, the lady's like, George, you're just jealous. And he's like, who's jealous? I'm just gonna tear the threads off of this fruit cake. And he's like, sir, can we reason this out? And he's like, sure, after I beat your brains in. And he's like, look, big boy, you can have them all. They're not my type. And he's like, now you're insulting my taste too. I'll really cream you. They're a pretty great little
just
little moment there.
Wonderfully ridiculous.
Yeah, just these alpha, this like alpha male trying to puff up, and him being like, I don't want any part of this. Now this is an ad for like these tiger wheels for your bike. and it looks like Jack Davis
I
drew
was
it.
going to say that really looks like Jack Davis art.
Yeah.
Another really exceptional illustrator.
Yep. Yeah, that's really fun. Just great cartooning.
Yeah.
So here he is, he's got to knock this guy out. And the girls are just trying to kiss him. So he bends the bars and he gets the hell out of there. And we go back here. Angel gets out of the thing and realizes that, it wasn't the ape throwing his voice the whole time. And I love this foreground thing with the, it's very ominous, and it's like Freddy Krueger almost, but it's a corkscrew and a can opener and a screwdriver, and the hand it feels like a Kirby shot.
Yeah.
But his little guy disobeys, so he knocks him out, and he's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, Professor, you're absolutely right to hit me." Again,
oh God,
of its time, right?
Of its time, yeah.
And then he says, "Any last words before I turn you into a mindless robot?" So that made me think, oh, wow. So you've got this like Bond villain. It's 1968. Go detective stuff happening here. And you've got these quote unquote robot go-go girls. I wonder if Mike Myers read this as he was developing the Austin Powers stuff, because it really feels like that.
Oh, that's a hell of a similarity. Wow. I never made that connection, and now you just can't not see it.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I wonder. I really wonder.
Oh wow. Yeah, me too.
It's always cool to see the ads, because you see kind of like the biggest characters that they got going here. You got this issue coming out with Hawkman, Green Arrow, and Atom. Green Arrow notably has no blonde goatee here. So this is pre, Neil Adams days, at least,
And again, look at the typography on that page.
Yeah.
All hand done. Mm-hmm. Who were the letterers back then, the really popular ones? There were two of them. One was Gaspar Saladino, who was more in the 70s, I think.
Yeah, and
then there was someone else, and they were just known. They were letterers.
Yes. Have a conversation with me any other time than when the camera is going, and I will remember the names.
Yeah.
So bad at it. But yeah, so good. I mean, that was their job, to do that all day. And of course, you're going to get good at it and creative. All right. So Ape is able to get in, and he tells the ladies to attack and destroy him, and they start beating the living daylights out of him. He put the key into his thing, or I guess, I guess somehow I guess because he's choking him, he convinces him to turn the machine off, and everybody kind of goes back to being normal, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "We've got extra money from after this job that we did. Should we use it for next month's rent, or should I get a new dress?" And he's like, "Oh, I think you could have offered to buy me an aspirin." Man, all these little shots of all these girls like fighting and popping and turning in and turning back and stuff. They're so good. And then as he goes and locks himself in, you got this final shot of the lady apes, that had also escaped and are in his room with them.
They tracked him down.
So yeah, the cartooning in this is just ridiculous. It's such a fun book.
Anything Bob Oksner drew, anything, I just gravitated to. I just would sit there, even like at a kid, as a young age. Yeah, I appreciated the writing, the stories, but as a budding artist, I would just salivate looking at his pages.
It's incredible. Yeah, I need to find more, just to study the line work. Unbelievable.
I think there were like only 10 or 11 issues of the original Angel and the Ape. And midway through, they renamed it Meet Angel, even though Simmy, and the ape was still clearly there.
Oh, interesting.
And there were also 2 or 3, we'll call them episodes, issues of Angel and the Ape. It started in Showcase Comics.
Okay.
So it started there.
So that was their like first appearance.
Yes.
In Showcase.
Yeah.
And then it went to its own regular series. Yeah, this was an interesting time because you have some other titles, you know, like you see like Tomahawk and Anthro.
Oh, Anthro, another wonderfully weird book.
Yeah, and stuff that really, and you'll not like a year or two later is when you know, they take Wonder Woman and they turn her into like a everyday detective.
Yep.
Woman, you know, they lose the suit and they just make her, and it was an interesting time in DC.
Yeah.
For all these books, but yeah, this is great, man. Thank you so much for sharing this.
My pleasure.
I want to dive in even further. So,
well, you've as someone who's new to it, you've got a lot of good content to look forward to, because every issue they put out of this was just beautiful. And even that miniseries Vertigo did in the 90s was wonderful too.
I'm going to have to track that down too. Well, awesome. Well, Dave, where can people find you out and about on the the interwebs?
I'm all over social media. I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I've got both, you know, my own profile and a Being Gordy page on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I am on Threads, Bluesky, and LinkedIn.
Great. All right. I'm going to put all the links in the show notes so people can have all the ways to get a hold of you to grab a copy of your book, Being Gordy.
Oh, thank you very much.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about this. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It was great talking with you.
You too, man. All right. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Join my Patreon to see my work before anyone else, plus score physical sketchbooks, mini comics, and commissions delivered right to your door, and reading my new books, Something Seems Off and Three-Headed Pigman, as they are made. Go to my website to order original art, commissions, and my books, Lost Angels, Spectral: A Showcase of Fear, Chaotic Neutral, and more. Gray Matter Drip, The Art of Chris Anderson is available now from Cosmic Lion Productions. Here are the upcoming conventions I'll be at the time of this recording. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. It helps spread the word. Thanks.